Well, good goddamn morning, you happily miserable accursed. Welcome to the first of our Curse of Politics Ontario Election Daily Podcasts. And look who's back here with Scott Reid and I. An OG of COP, the poobah of PP, the one and only Jenni from the Lock.
Hi, guys.
Jenni.
I'm so happy to be back.
Oh, we've missed you, Jenni.
I missed you guys.
I like your camo. Looking good in camo. On the way to the podcast, I passed the duck blind. Looking good, sister. Repping for rural Ontario.
All right. It's a short show every morning, so let's get to it. Here's how the show is going to go down for the next 25 weekday mornings. Every Monday to Friday until June the 3rd, the day after Election Day. We'll start with a Where's the Leaders daily agenda report from Allison Smith, the publisher of Queen's Park Today, Ontario's most read subscription-based political newsletter. Allison, welcome to the pod. Very exciting to have you.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the election campaign.
Yeah, I know it's on, eh? Jesus. Next, we'll be breaking down polling numbers from our friend Greg Lyle, founder and president of Innovative Research Group. Greg is in the field in Ontario all month long with a weekly tracking of voter attitudes and preferences, and we'll be breaking that down every day. Then Jenni, Scott, and I will run our mouths about whatever the hell is going on out there on the trail, and we'll wind it all up by each of us giving either a blessing or a curse every day. And we'll have this show into your inbox by 8:45 a.m. Let's get it. Let's get at it. Allison, you're up. What's happening today?
All right. Well, today we have Doug Ford teaming up with Justin Trudeau for kind of seems like one last big funding announcement before he has to officially step into campaign mode. They're going to be out in Windsor, and it looks like it's going to be an announcement.
Why is Trudeau doing that for him? Jesus.
I know, yeah. Poor Stephen Del Duca. That is an interesting last-minute move. It looks like there's going to be cash for automaker Stellantis, which has a plant out there, and a plant in Brampton. The Brampton one is one that hasn't gotten a big funding boost yet, so and a place where there's a lot of hot seats. So that's what I'm watching. Del Duca is going to be talking about, what is it? A big announcement about tackling affordability and reducing gridlock. He'll be at the Toronto Convention Centre. And Andrea Horvath, she's going to be talking healthcare out in Mississauga and doing a couple other campaign stops around the day.
So they lose, in other words. They lose the day, in other words.
I think that, yeah. I think once you got Trudeau with you a couple days, 48 hours before an election campaign drop, you're probably getting the attention.
Yeah. You have a quote of you have a newsletter, by the way. You have a daily newsletter, which I find really helpful. Tremendous summary of what's going on and what's about to happen. You have a quote of the day in that. What's your quote today?
Queen's Park Today's quote of the day is the Yes Express, which is the name the PC party and Doug Ford gave to their campaign bus over the weekend. I don't know, catchy name. It seems like a nod to their Party of Yes mantra, their Get It Done mantra, and it also evokes, trains, highways, expresses, and all of the kind of momentum.
Everything but conservatism.
Sure, yeah.
Yes. No, they're not saying yes.
All right, Allison, thank you very much. We'll catch you tomorrow.
For sure.
Thanks Allison.
Bye.
The Yes Express, what is that all about? Like, seriously, how is that? How is that a conservative slogan?
Well, it's not. It's a Doug Ford slogan. He's. I think one thing that we've seen, especially over the last couple of years, is that Doug does not put himself in the same genre as other conservatives. So the Yes Express is a Doug Ford thing. He said this, was it a year ago? I'll say no to nothing. I'll yes to everything. And so that's where the Yes Express. Comes from. I personally don't really like it that much, but people seem to.
Man,
he's spending $50 billion more than in the budget on last week. He's spending $50 billion more than Kathleen Wynne did when Ontario was the most indebted sub-sovereign body in the world, whatever people used to say. There is no Conservative Party in this campaign?
Nope. No, there isn't. Everybody's on the Yes Express, David. Get with it, okay? So the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP are all on the Yes Express. Look, if you're looking for fiscal conservatism, go find a different election. That's for goddamn sure, right?
I have an election for you if you are.
Oh yeah. We can't go there. Hold your fire, conflicted girl. Get into it. I'll put on my Jean Charest mask and it'll all be good. In fact, there's as many people in this room as there was at Jean Charest's rally yesterday. I think there's two things interesting with the Yes Express. One, I'm going to go real nerdy, right? Why do they get to name their own bus? Whenever I was on a campaign, we'd try to name our own plane, and then the media would beat us about the head and punish us for it. So whatever we thought was clever and fun and, expressed our campaign slogan, they would punish us for it. Instead say, oh yeah, how about we call it the Martin Blows Dog? Hey, so how do you like that, Reid? Don't be trying to name the plane. We name the plane. We name the bus. I don't know how come they get away with naming their own bus. They shouldn't get to do that. That should be taken from them. It's not their job.
The media should take it from them. The media should take it from them then.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. It's not right. God damn it. Get out there. Do your job. Name the slogan. Name the bus. But the second thing is, I understand the logic of it. I think, there's a wisdom behind it. I presume that, Corey and Nick and all the guys that are doing the research and the strategy for Ford are going, look, people feel beat down by 2 years of pandemic. They're fatigued. They're frustrated. They don't want to have a bunch of government's been telling them, don't do this, don't do that. You can't go in a park. You can't go in a restaurant. You can't. So and they're looking for optimism and they're looking for, let's come out of this thing with all guns ablazing. So I guess that's the logic behind the yes, but I actually think that there's a vulnerability in it. And then I think that it tells you something fundamental about Doug Ford, right? It's the populist thing that you're talking about, Jenny. It's the personal populism of Doug Ford, right? Which is, I want people to walk away going, he agreed with me. He liked me. So Doug Ford will just kind of almost blithely say yes to anybody who says anything. But you could walk up to him and say, I'm for Coke. Yes. I'm for Pepsi. Yes. And he walks away from the room and all these sort of, what he said yes to just drops from him like rain from a cloud. He doesn't think about it again. So to me, it kind of highlights the sort of weird, needy, I'm not really in charge. I just like to say yes to people and have people like me back. It's like when he goes on the stump and he starts talking, like he's all pissed off because he's like, I don't know. Why isn't the government doing this? And then Doug Ford would be like, yeah, you're right. Why isn't the government doing this? Let's find the government, thrash those sons of bitches. It's like, you are the government, Ford, So I think there's room there to beat the guy up because, he didn't say yes to schools and students. He didn't say yes to long-term care. Like there's lots of things you can turn this thing around on him on. And it's going to be interesting to see if it plays.
I'm not sure it will though. So I think that, listen, as someone that has been critical of lockdown measures since March and April of 2020, I'll say people seem to be happy that that life is back. You go into a restaurant now. It's like it was before in the before times. It's life seems to be back. The three of us had dinner, 4 nights ago or whatever, and it seemed very lovely. And so I think that I'm
still paying for that. By the way, that was tough.
I told you I'd pay, David, but you took the paycheck.
I didn't offer.
No, I mean physically paying, not.
I could smell the check was coming. I was out of there like the Flash. Come on, guys. What do you can pick this up? I got next time. Asterisk. There will be no next time.
And yet your son even sent us like desserts.
He's such a sweet boy.
He is a sweet boy. He gets that from his mom, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I think though that where Doug also benefits from like the Essex, like what have you, is that the other parties, you got Horwath, you got Del Duca, like almost like every day will walk out and say masks. That's what we need. We need more masks still. Like it. So he's like, he wants to regress where people are at. And so I think that like where Doug's going to get a real benefit from is that the other parties, at least at a level that could win the election kind of parties, are seemingly wanting to take the province back in terms of like COVID lockdowns or COVID policies when everyone else is like done with COVID. Like COVID, we don't want it to exist. Don't want to talk about it. We just want to go on with our fucking lives.
Right. We're at the beginning of May. Flora is finally starting to bloom in most of the country. So this seems like the right time to be talking about a thing called pollinator. The presenting sponsor of our podcast is Telus. You all know that. And if you've been following along with this story thread on Telus's ESG commitments, environmental, social, and governance, you also know that they're a company driven by social purpose. To use their world-leading technology for good and put the well-being of their customers, communities, and the planet first. So, Telus has a pollinator fund for good. At $100 million, it's one of the world's largest corporate impact funds. Its mission is to power the bravest and boldest ideas by for-profit startups dedicated to social innovation and building tech for good. The fund is just in its first year, but so far the team has closed 10 investments totaling almost $20 million, partnering with sustainable small businesses who tackle some of the biggest social, economic, healthcare, and environmental challenges of our generation. 40% of these companies are led by women. 50% are headed by Indigenous and racialized leaders. In all cases, the Pollinator Fund connects these companies to the skills, expertise, money, and even the networking connections they need to scale and grow. I'm going to dive into one of these 10 investment stories later this week, Herle Birdiates, and how perfect for a fund called Pollinator. It's about the health of honeybees and cutting-edge beekeeping technology. But right now, I invite you to read more about Telus's commitments in their sustainability and ESG report at telus.com/sustainability. Hey, Ford's not having a tour again, just as I suspected. I read this in Allison's piece this morning that the Ford tour will not be providing, and it will not allow journalists on its bus, will not be providing journalists with an itinerary of the next day's events. Why are they doing that again? And will that work for a second time? It was such an odd innovation last time. But, I mean, are tours dead?
Do you want to start, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, look, we've talked about this in the past. People have been predicting that tours are going to die for 40 years. And literally in campaigns federally and provincially. So this is going to be the time when we're not going to spend the money on the bus. Guys like David and I hear from the operations people. They all get shitty and pissy and say, I'm not paying for all these goddamn media to come on this bus or this plane and all this stuff. The reason it's starting to actually change this time is that, you know, we had the pandemic. I think we went virtual. It allowed people to make the transition. And a government like Ford's, in particular, Doug Ford, sees that it's in his interest. And so I think, I think two things about it. One, I think that, yeah, for sure, we're going to see other people do it, and we're going to see them stick to it. I'm not surprised. Two, it's kind of like a serious version of the Yes Express. This is up to media to make him pay for it, right? Like Kathleen was the issue in the last election. He got to float past. He never really got tested until the last 4 days or so of the campaign, and they kept him very disciplined and very focused. They're trying to do the same thing. They're worried that the yes man will say something stupid and regretful on the campaign, and they're limiting his exposure. So it's up to the media to say we're not going to take it. So they got to take a pound out of the rate in the first week, make him pay for doing this. And I don't know if they will, and I don't know if they're up to doing it. So
the campaign, basically all of our discussions about the campaign and most people's conversations about the campaign are predicated on the notion that the Conservatives start off in a very strong majority position territory and are running a front-runner campaign, and the other two are scrambling to see which of them challenges him. There have been a couple of polls, not all of them, but a couple of polls in the last couple of weeks that have shown the Conservatives more in the mid-30s than the high 30s. And Greg Lyle, we don't have his first data yet, should be coming later this week, but he was telling me that over the weekend he was seeing some softening in Conservative numbers as well. How does it change things if the Conservatives start off in the mid-30s in minority territory as opposed to the high 30s in majority territory? How does it change what they do or what anybody else does?
Well, I'm going to start by saying the polls. Like, I think one of the polls that we're talking about is the Abacus poll that basically just polls on party ballot and no leader ballot, which is going to be a benefit for Del Duca, because we've talked about the Liberal Party
Federal
of
brand.
The federal brand it's the strongest,
brand.
most resilient political brand in the Western world, the Liberal Party of Canada. You guys blessed with that.
Despite the best efforts of me and David.
So we'll say with that, I don't think it changes anything. I think that Corey, Nick, I think that the party has a campaign plan, and I don't think you're going to see it. I don't think you're going to see it differ in the next month. I think the campaigns that you'll see differ, that will change course. I don't think you'll see the Conservatives change course in the next 30 some days. I think what will be interesting is to watch the NDP and the Liberals, because they're going to be scrambling that if the first week doesn't work, if the second week doesn't work, they're going to be the ones changing. I think you'll see if Horvath change on the fly. I think you'll see Del Duca change on the fly. Like, Del Duca's first ad was on almost like the, what was it, the Lincoln ad that like Matthew McConaughey had. And I'm not comparing Stephen Del Duca to Matthew McConaughey, but that's kind of what it was like, driving in the car. And which I don't think worked. I don't think the messaging that the Liberals have worked yet. So I think it's not going to be them changing, David. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the other parties do in the next month.
Right.
I think that's right. I think it will be interesting to see what they do, but I think it has a really big effect for the Conservatives. I just think that the response, your question sort of implied, David, is not the response we're going to get. So I expect the following things. And if I was Corey and Nick, I would start out and I'd be telling the troops now to expect a fall in support for the government in the first week. I would just, even if I didn't see that in my own numbers, I'd be cautioning people to expect it, just because that often happens, and you want to not have people flip out and say, oh my God, the race has been reset. I don't think I would change much that I'm doing with Ford, though, if I were them. So if the numbers soften in this first week and suddenly it looks like it's a horse race, let's say for the sake of discussion that these polls that indicate that Del Duca and the Liberals have made separation between themselves and the NDP. And so it looks like the Liberals might be getting poised to be the alternative. Let's say they're 3, 4, 5 points away from the government. That's, by the way, that's a speculation. That's not a given, right? But let's say that it's in that circumstance. I don't think you change what you do with Doug. I think it actually intensifies the reason to make sure you got Doug disciplined. And I don't think that's not the risk I would take. I think what it will change is what their balance of advertising is. Short campaign, 4 weeks, right? These 4-week campaigns are a different beast. And so I think what you'd see is they'll go hard at the Liberals. And we've already seen a little bit of that. We've seen a negative ad that's being run. But there will also be things that are not visible to us, right? It's going to be more, it's going to be a digital beating to try to ramp up and intensify Conservative interest and motivation to make sure that they're out and voting and excited, and to try to beat down the Liberal brand. And that may not be like, I won't see it as an example, right? It just won't register because they're going to use, data and digital tools. But I think that's where that's the toolkit they'll go to. It won't be let's move what we do with Doug. They won't move what they do with Doug until and unless they have to, if they're in a real panic and they're behind with 10 days to go.
Home sweet home. A place to create memories, a place to hang your hat, a place to be proud of, and a place that is all yours. Our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, says the dream of home ownership is slowly being dismantled, brick by brick, due to high housing prices, difficulty saving for a down payment, and fewer homes being built. It is more difficult to buy a home now than it was, say, when I was in my 20s, but the benefit of home ownership remains the same. The stability and security provided by home ownership fosters vibrant and stable communities and improves quality of life, leading to opportunities and experiences to last a lifetime. Home ownership is the bulwark of Canada's middle class, so it's not surprising that 90% of parents surveyed in a recent Abacus data poll feel it is important that their child is one day able to own a home. But how? The best options, aside from borrowing from mom and dad, to help young buyers purchase a home is twofold. One, the government needs to consider changes that will dramatically increase the supply of housing to meet the existing demand. And two, increase the first-time home buyer's land transfer tax rebate from its current rate of $4,000 to $8,000. You'll be hearing a lot more from OREA over the next 5 weeks about Ontario's housing affordability crisis and what can be done to fix it. Because OREA wants to see more young people become homeowners, and that starts with building a home for everyone. Read OREA's plan at ahomeforeveryone.info. So, looking ahead, what are the things that you guys are going to be watching in this campaign to see how things are going to go? What are some of the things you're going to be looking for? I mean, I personally am interested in how much money the Liberals are going to have for advertising over the course of the 4 weeks. Because if they're going to do the full run to the finals through playoff season, they're going to have a lot of money for their own, or to make their own case clear. Plus, they're going to face, if they were successful, a big barrage at the end. So they need closing money too, to close the campaign out. So, and I don't know if they've got the money for that run. Maybe they can raise it during the campaign. But that's one of the things I'll be watching for, is whether if there's a Liberal run, can it be durable? Do they have the money to make it durable? What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, I think that's exactly that's exactly what you're looking for. I assume that if you're Del Duca and you're worried about money, you're going to do something. You're going to come into the gate strong. So you're going to do something very strong out of the gates. Keep your fingers crossed. You can raise some money for kind of the middle part of the campaign, but you've already blocked off money for the end. So if you're worried about money, you kind of got the bookends covered
right.
in terms of what they're doing. I think I'm actually very curious. I assume that this will be Andrea Horwath's last election. So this is her fifth election? Yeah. And so
30th actually. I went through Wikipedia. She's been campaigning since 1923. She fought the United Farmers of Ontario.
So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what the NDP do. They seem much less of a factor in the last election than since they were in the last election. So it's going to be very interesting because they have been a factor. The Conservative success, we do well when the NDP are stronger, and so it's going to be very interesting to see if they're going to play a factor in this election, like what they have done, they did in the past.
Right.
I'm with Jenny. I'm really interested to see what happens to the NDP, particularly in the first 10 days. If the polls that we've seen recently that suggest there's been a realignment, at least on the opposition side, where the Liberals have created some distance between themselves and the NDP. And if the NDP find themselves scraping 20% and looking like they're not the alternative to government, I'll just be interested. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to actually say, hey, here's what you should do, because I don't know what in hell they can do. But I'll be interested to see what they do. The other thing I'm going to be looking for is almost entirely around the Liberal camp, because so far, I would say this critically about the Liberal campaign. I'm not entirely sure what they're peddling. I don't know fundamentally what is their crisp, clear, sharp argument that says Doug Ford doesn't deserve to be returned, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, this is what you get.
Yeah, that is not crystallized yet.
No, and it's not in the advertising. But you would make the argument, you got to make that case first. But I see them doing positive ads about the Liberal brand, about Del Duca, to try to introduce them. But I still don't get the crystal clear, sharp message of, and this is what you get when you vote Liberal. This is the bargain. I don't know if that's about schools. I don't know if it's about cost of living. I don't know what it's about. So I'll be watching to see if that gets tightened up, because I think the following will happen. I think the Liberals are ahead of the NDP. I think that there will be a sag in Ford's numbers. I think the campaign will feel competitive the first week or so in. And then I think people are going to be kind of going, okay, well, what are the Liberals all about? And who is Del Duca? And what are they offering? And I think they've got to have a sharp answer to that. And I see no sign of it yet. So I think that shoe will drop, and I think it will be the determining factor in the campaign.
But
one of the reasons why they don't have a sharp, go ahead, Jenny, go ahead.
No, I was going to say but if they're not talking about it now, then they don't have it. If they're not sure what they're going to say in terms of that, Scott, then it means they probably don't have it. And if you're the somewhat not the natural governing party of Ontario, but you're the Liberal Party of Ontario, and you have not started that part of your narrative with 33, like it's the election's June the 2nd. So we're a month away from today, 31 days away from today is going to be the election. I'm not sure if you're able to do that. Like that, it takes a lot to ingrain a message into people's heads. Like we know what it is. Like he could say it once and we'll like then go, well, this is what his message is. But we're in no way average people. And so if you haven't started that now, and they don't know what that is, then I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that.
I think it stems from a bigger problem, Jenny. Yeah. I think that the reason why the offering isn't sharply distinguished is because I don't think either party has settled on a core critique about why Ford has to be defeated. I don't think either party has the 3 sharp sentences you say at the door about why Ford can't be returned. I think that they've got a bunch of bad policies they would list off or mistakes they would argue, but I don't think there's a core critique that then leads you to an alternative program that says, to address that failing, here's what we've got.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say on this, first, I'd be sympathetic to the Liberals, more sympathetic if I thought that they weren't telling us what they're all about and what the Liberal bargain is, because they're concentrating on that core critique and they're putting every ounce of effort into sharpening that blade. But like you say, David, I don't actually see that, because I do see some soft advertising that seems to be introducing the Liberal brand. But to me, it's neither fish nor fowl. It isn't really telling me what the Liberals are about. But it certainly doesn't provide a critique of Ford. The second thing is, I think you're right, Jenny. I think, they need to have established that. To me, the big thing that's sitting out there that I find puzzling about this campaign is that we are in this, Jenny, I'm going to sound like I'm you. I'm going to put on my Jenni Byrne glasses for a second. We're in a cost of living crisis, right? And we talk about it in the federal context all the time. Why isn't it the defining issue of this campaign? I can understand why Ford wants to kind of, look sympathetic to it, but manage it. He doesn't want to own it. But I don't understand why the Liberals aren't going, hey, people, the price of gas, the price of hamburger, this is a problem. This guy isn't going to be able to handle it, right? When he's faced with tough choices, he fucks it up. He says yes to everything. Well, you can't say yes to keeping the value of your home where it is, and yes to also lowering prices for homes. So, I would be going hard at that. And I'm just puzzled so far. You don't really hear cost of living emerging as the principal critique coming out of the mouths of the opposition leaders. And I don't get that.
Right. No, absolutely. Hey, listen, half hour flies by pretty quickly. We have a segment in this show called Blessings or Curses. And so we're supposed to deliver either a blessing or a curse to somebody at the end of every show. There's sound effects for this, by the way. Ta-da. Okay. Jenny, you got one? You got your hand up.
Yeah, no, listen, the blessing is I am so happy to be on the podcast with you guys talking about the provincial election and seeing you every morning. It's worth getting up early to see you guys. So I think the blessing is I'm happy we're getting into the campaign. I'm happy to be back on the curse. I'm happy to be back seeing you guys. And especially props to you, David, with your Hab stuff. It's so sad. We've got Guy Lafleur's funeral tomorrow. They're doing a wake at the Bell Center. And so anyways, I'm just happy to be back talking politics with you guys.
God, he made me happy so many times.
So many. I've got a curse. Mine is not as up with life as Jenny's. Although I'm delighted to see Jenny and be back together, the three of us. I'm very, very, very happy about that. I have a curse. I have a curse for the Dalton McGuinty government of 2005 when they introduced fixed elections as the law of the land. And the reason it's a curse is this. I know that people hate elections and they hate politicians, and they particularly hate.
I thought you were going to curse them for the health premium, because I still curse them for that fucking.
Yeah, well, that
was a great policy. As the Ontario desk for the 2004 Stephen Harper campaign.
Well, they dishwashered Herle on that, I'll tell you. But anyway, we'll come back to that another time. No, the reason I want to, in 2005, they introduced this fixed elections day legislation, and they set, the election at 4 weeks, and no one's going to like this because no one wants politicians banging on their door. But I think it's too short a period. I know there's lots of elections in it, but like as a practitioner, like I think I want a longer election. I want to see a bigger laboratory of stuff. I want more developments to occur. I want there to be more twists in this tale. 4 weeks. It takes you 2.5 weeks for people to realize there's an election. Then you have the debate. Then it's too late to do anything, and the fucking election's over. So I curse this short election campaign. I think it puts too much pressure on the wankers like us who are running these 3 campaigns. So I'd like more election, not less. I want a fixed law that sets a 6 or 7 week campaign.
All right. My blessing goes out to the Ontario media that are covering this campaign. Ford is not bringing you on the tour because he's trying to escape accountability. He can't stand up to daily scrutiny, so make sure he gets it. Find a way. I know your resources are depleted. I know they're going to try to make it difficult for you, but this guy doesn't want to be accountable day in, day out during the election campaign for very good reason, and find a way nonetheless, because it's important for democracy, to do it. That is my blessing to the Ontario media for this day of the curse of politics. And I think by and large we did okay on our first day.
As long as tomorrow we get to talk about the gatekeepers.
Right.
Did you say sorry? Was that Ron DeSantis? Did you say the gatekeepers? You're scared of the gatekeepers?
I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Telus, our sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association. I'd like to thank Allison Smith from Queen's Park today, who will be with us every day. And I would like to remind you that the Toronto Region Board of Trade is hosting a live Curse of Politics podcast on May the 25th. Grab your tickets. And Scott Reid will buy you a beer, and Jenni Byrne will drink it with you.
Yep.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow.
Take care. Bye, Jenni. It was so great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.